guys, Eric back here outside San Diego. A lot going on. And this gentleman, Dean Norris, you are very busy here because you were here promoting two completely different shows.
That's true, yeah. I'm Breaking Bad and Under the Dome on CBS.
So let's start with Breaking Bad,
yes.
which obviously this show through the years has just grown and grown in popularity, and now this is going to be it, the end run. What's it feel like for you knowing that this is it? People are going to see the final 8 episodes.
Yeah, it's really bittersweet, you know. I mean, it was a great show, obviously, and great people to work with. But we also feel it comes to a proper conclusion, you know, and it's nice to know that it's got that. It's a finite thing. It's a great. The final 8 are the best. I think the best 8 of the whole series, and that's saying a lot. So looking forward to a great run.
All right, so let's talk about where we left off.
Yeah.
Because things could not have been bigger for this guy here,
yeah.
What was going on. Finally, was it so exciting for you to read that, okay, finally, a moment we've all been waiting for years was going to happen?
Yeah, and the way I found out was very interesting.
It was very interesting. I'm talking about we're going to see Hank on the toilet. That's all I was talking about.
Right, exactly, yeah. It was a very private moment and then for a very public thing. Yeah, exactly, and we, you know, and that's so now that Hank knows or suspects, obviously that kind of fuels the last 8, and it's like a freight train, man.
You know, the character, you know, through the years, I know you had to answer questions about, like, well, why doesn't he know, or why can't he figure it out? But, you know, I kind of understood where he's coming from as far as, you know, how could you suspect who Walter White is in his life?
Right.
You know, is that always how you saw it?
Yeah, and I always thought the writers did a really credible job of making him smart enough to figure things out, but not giving him enough to he puts it together with his brother-in-law, because he knew, you know, Gus Fring was bad and he could figure out Jesse, you know, but he never just quite put the two together, and I think that was a tension that they held, and now boom, this is we're gonna see what happens now that Hank finds out or knew.
This is where, you know, I try to get you to give me little morsels, knowing you can't say too much. Anything you can say besides wiping and flushing that is Hank's next move.
Yeah, and I hope they don't cut that out, because I did wipe and flush, and, you know.
Wash your hands.
I washed my hands and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I hope they don't cut that out, but that's what I did afterwards.
DVD, that's a DVD.
That's a DVD extras,
else.
yeah. European version.
But then what does he do? I mean, he's at a family event. How do you process that?
You know, how zero I can say about even the next moment. It's zero.
All right. I mean, yeah, they've been putting out, like, there was a couple teasers they put out, and one of them was you driving intensely.
Right,
so
drive angry.
Hank will drive intensely.
I'll drive angry at one point.
What was it like for you guys? Because, you know, even though technically this is the second half of season 5, you did take a break in shooting. So, you know, was that kind of interesting for you to come back and know, like, really that you're going to hit the ground running with these final 8 episodes, concentrated episodes to finish the story?
Yeah, I mean, we waited. I don't speak for myself. I'm sure everybody else too. I waited with bated breath for the next script. You know, It was so when we finally got the next script. We wait, you know, anxiously for every script. So it was a long time to wait to kind of see how they were going to play it out. You know, so once we got them, it was like fantastic. And it's like
you know, and now I know you have to also give me an interesting answer to this one, but I know you're not going to tell me the ending, and I don't want to know the ending.
Right.
But what did you think when you read that final script, you know, when you saw this is how this story will end?
I thought it was very, very satisfying. I think it's awesome. I think our fans will go, okay, you know, it was a proper ending. Is the best I can say.
Your character, you know, when he's introduced at first, it was like, you know, oh, this is this funny guy, this jovial guy. Was it cool for you to see the transformation he took through the years? Certainly when you get to an episode like 1 minute, and suddenly he is involved in one, and this is saying something, one of the most tense sequences in the history of Breaking Bad, which is amazing given how tense that show can be. To see that transformation, was that exciting?
Yeah, it was tremendous, really, to be able to kind of leave some of that jokey and blowhardishness behind and kind of deal with what ended up being PTSD and then it kind of furthered in the 4th season too. He's kind of stuck in bed and you know, without being able to walk and stuff. So yeah, it made for a much richer character at the end of the day than it started out to be. You know.
And then you got to really show his skills as a policeman, as a detective, and how he was really starting to figure things out. Everything with Gus, was that exciting to get to see, hey, wait a second, this guy, he got the job he has, and he's a very skilled guy.
Yeah, and I always thought that was a big part of who Hank was, is that he really loved his job, you know. In fact, that's the main thing of who he is, you know. They never had him with kids or anything, and that his job was his life, and he loved it, and so it was nice to see him, put stuff together, even though he didn't at first connect it with his brother-in-law, you know.
What's it like working with Brian? The two of you have had some really great sequences, especially in the last couple of years. I feel, you know, the more further into it Walt was getting and the closer Hank was getting when you're sitting across the desk and he's bugging you and all that stuff. Are those interesting scenes to play because your character obviously can't be fully aware of what's going on, but have these interesting interactions with this guy? Yeah,
it's been great. You know, he's obviously such a great actor to play with and all that stuff. And sometimes he's directed episodes. That's really interesting when he directs an episode where you're playing against each other, you know. It's great, and he's such a fun guy to work opposite because he gives you so much, you know. And I've learned a lot from him as an actor and as a professional. So.
Last year was the first year Breaking Bad came to Comic-Con. And, you know, the thing is with Breaking Bad, it was always an acclaimed show, and people loved it, but you could really feel every year just covering it, I felt more and more people were seeing it, catching up, getting more enthusiastic about it. When you came out last year for that first Comic-Con panel, what was it like to, face your fans and see that incredible enthusiasm?
Man, it was unbelievable. It was like being the Rolling Stones, man. You know what I'm saying? And I was like,
right?
And people just signs, and people had been turned away to get into the hall, and it was really an exciting moment. We all kind of looked at each other like, "Whoa, what the, you know? Okay, right? That's fun, you know." So. And
you had a very interesting costume last year, very memorable costume. Yeah. I wish I could show it to you guys right now. But what inspired that costume? Would you explain that a little bit? And do you have something planned for tomorrow?
Maybe
possibly,
not.
Possibly. All right.
Well, it was literally at the last moment I said it was a Xena warrior princess costume, and I knew she was an icon figure here. And for some reason, I don't know, we had my wife. It really didn't fit me. It was like it barely fit. It just happened to have some parts of it laying around the house. I said, the day before, I said, you know what, I'm going to Comic-Con. I might as well be of the Comic-Cons. You know what I'm saying? When in Rome. So I decided to do it at the last minute.
It was a very memorable and exciting choice, sir.
Thank you.
So tomorrow, you have two panels. Because you've got Breaking Bad and you've got Under the Dome. Can you talk about doing Under the Dome almost simultaneously, right? The first episode of Under the Dome, were you shooting that at the same time as Breaking Bad?
They overlapped by a few days, yeah. We had to do some schedule issues to get out in time to get Under the Dome. And both sides helped very, very, very nicely to make that work out. But, finished Breaking Bad literally in the morning, and I was supposed to go to North Carolina the next day, but I said heck with it and got on a plane that afternoon. So I finished my Breaking Bad and was on a plane that afternoon to North Carolina to shoot Under the Dome. So.
Now, that character, obviously, a much more sort of nefarious, plotting character. How would you describe Big Jim, and sort of how do you see him looking at this situation and the decisions he's making? Yeah,
I think Big Jim, he feels reptilian to me. You know, he'll make all his choices whatever he needs to do at that moment. That's what he'll do. He's amoral, immoral. He hasn't, but he's a charmer in a way that he can smooze people and charm people and try to get his way that way, So I think he's just a really good politician at some level.
And it just seems like, this situation, there's this crisis going on, and they are sort of lacking leadership, that he is just sort of using it to strike almost.
Yeah, I think he's the only guy that when the dome came down said, great, here's my opportunity.
Right.
To be a little dictator in this thing. And it's it's an allegorical tale. So I mean, all the kind of things that go on. It's in many, like Stephen King does. Often it tells us a larger story about society and things like that. When you see the workings of these people inside this dome, So he's the guy that says he's going to take charge, and that's what he's going to do.
He's got some interesting relationships going on. Him and Barbie are both antagonistic and yet sometimes cooperative.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit how that will continue as the season plays out?
Yeah, I think Big Jim is not afraid to use anybody on. If he sees a way to use that person on his team, he's going to use it. And although it's also the idea of keep your friends close, or keep your enemies closer.
Yeah.
So he'll keep a good eye on Mr. Barbie through the show.
the last episode ended with a big revelation for your character, because there's a girl locked up down in this fallout shelter with water rushing in.
Yeah.
Can you say anything about Big Jim's next move when he discovers, Junior?
Crazy Junior.
Crazy Junior.
You're going to find out. I can tell you this. You're going to find out tomorrow. We're going to show it over number 5, and it'll be on Monday night here in the United States. So. You realize that maybe the reason Junior's crazy is because he's raised by his dad, Big Jim. Because I think Big Jim might have a little sociopath element about him. In fact, he definitely is a sociopath. I don't know whether he's a psychopath, but I think he's definitely a sociopathic behavior. So, but you'll see.
And now he's putting Junior, who's very, very unstable, to say the least, into a position of power himself. That doesn't seem like it's going to go so well.
It's not a really good parenting move, is that? No, you don't want to give psycho kids guns. But again, he's trying to get him his own force together. Big Jim is. He figures his son is one way to start. At least he'll be loyal to him. So.
Is it interesting for you? Is it kind of hectic for you in your head to be promoting these 2 shows simultaneously?
It is kind of crazy because we go back and forth and stuff, but it's a lot of fun too, and it's nice that Breaking Bad shooting is completed and we're still working on Under the Dome, so I can kind of put a little distance to the Breaking Bad thing, even though we haven't seen it yet, So.
And you were at Comic-Con last year. What are your impressions of Comic-Con and everything going on out here?
It's just crazy. It's awesome. It's the most, like, you can never explain this to somebody. The people walking around in costumes and all the. It's an amazing place to be.
Now, I have to ask you, this is one for me.
Yes.
I am a huge fan of Starship Troopers.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to ask you what your experience working on that film, and what's it been like seeing the cult fandom of that movie over the years, and how it seems like more and more people get Starship Troopers as time goes on.
It is true, isn't it? And, it was great, because that was the second time I worked with Verhoeven. I worked with him on Total Recall. And it was really fun doing it. And when it came out, it didn't. I mean, one critic called it one of the top 10 movies or something, but a lot of people just kind of railed on it, and it kind of came and went to a certain extent. But over the years, more and more people come up to me and go, 40 lashes, give them 40 lashes, or whatever,
right.
So it is grown in here too. You see, I bet we have some. I bet Starship Troopers is here at some level.
Oh, I've taken pictures of cosplay Starship Troopers.
Yeah. So.
And here at Comic-Con, getting to interact with Breaking Bad fans, what's that been like for you, and what is it that they sort of express to you about the show that they love? Yeah,
it's our fans have always been just the best, and they're very, very passionate fans. None of them go, "Hey, we really like your show." They're like, "Man, your show changed my life," or "It's the best show I've ever seen," and all that stuff. And it's really, really rewarding to hear that from people. People always go, "Do you get tired of it?" I go, "No, not at all." It's the best thing in the world to have people come up and say, "Man, you're on my favorite show ever," and that's the kind of stuff we get on that show.
It must feel good knowing. I mean, you can tell that this show has already left that impression as one of the greatest TV shows ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you talk about one of the greatest or the greatest TV shows, it certainly deserves its chapter or its discussion.
Did you feel early on like, oh man, this is something special, or was there a certain point where you go, wow? I mean, I knew I was doing a good show, but there's this sort of next level here.
I think everybody who read the pilot will tell you it's one of the best pilots that they ever read, and that's true for me as well. And when I saw it the first time, because sometimes you don't get what's on the paper on the screen. When we saw it the first time, we were all like, wow, that's something special. And then they kept just getting the writing just kept getting good, and we knew we had something special. We didn't know whether people would get to see it. We didn't know whether we'd get the ratings enough on a small network like AMC that they would pull it, or what would go on. So that was our concern. And then as season 2 and season 3, by season 3 rolling out, it was really clear that we had something special going on, and the critics were loving it, and online people were loving it. And we realized that our audience was building and building and building, and we knew we had something special.
Well, very busy Dean Norris. Thanks for talking to us. Tomorrow, Sunday at Comic-Con, you've got the Breaking Bad panel.
Right.
And you've got the Under the Dome panel.
Yes.
Under the Dome Mondays on CBS, and Breaking Bad back August 11th.
August 11th.
Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll be having plenty more from Comic-Con to come.
Great. Thank you.